when you stand up to go to the toilet to pee, it takes 100 miracles to happen.
Oh, yeah.
From your brain to your spine. It takes 100 miracles to happen. And I'll never take those miracles for granted again.
Hey, this is Matt Cox, and I am here with Robert Farlow, and he is a former,
retired
military
porn star, yeah.
Former CO at was it just Coleman?
Coleman, yes,
okay.
Just Coleman.
At Coleman, and basically he's got a story. He's got an interesting story, and we're gonna go ahead and go through it. So check this out. I know you've been interviewed a bunch of times.
Yeah, sure.
But I just basically it's like to me it's like start at the beginning. Like where were you born?
Problem. Like, first of all, I want to thank you for having me.
Sure.
And I'm watching your show. I really like it. And I really wish you the best, man. And like I said, I know that you're an intelligent guy, and I know you're going to put your energy into good things, and I know you're going to be successful again.
Wow.
Most definitely. I'm your biggest cheerleader. Okay, just like all the guys that get out, that I'm their biggest cheerleader. I don't want to see anybody go in there, but there are people that do belong in there, and we talked about that.
Right. But like John BOSEAK.
Yeah.
He had told me about you.
Really?
I had heard about you prior to that, where I think it was Josh that mentioned it, but also Tyler, my BOSEAK and I's like our booking agent.
Yeah.
He mentioned you,
okay.
And I think I had two people in the comments, and I had a guy couple days ago mentioned you, and I went back and I said, bro, I'm interviewing him like in 2 days or on Wednesday.
Cool.
So it's funny because it's like all of a sudden it's just within probably a month, multiple people I got bombarded.
Well, it was meant to be, man.
You gotta check this guy out. You gotta check this guy out. You gotta check that.
It was meant to be then.
So where were you born?
I was born in Philadelphia. I'm originally from South Philadelphia. When I was a young man, my father committed murder. He was in the underworld. He was a bag man for organized crime. He dealt drugs. He pimped women. He was a gambler, ran gambling, illegal gambling, underground gambling. And he ended up, getting caught for a murder.
Okay.
And he got sentenced to life without parole when I was a young man. Now, the person that he murdered retaliated and burnt our house down, and my sister perished in that fire. 3 days, yeah.
The person he murdered.
Excuse me. The person he murdered's cousin.
I was gonna say,
not the person he murdered.
He must have been Jesus.
No, it wasn't Jesus. It wasn't Jesus, but he was the devil. Right. And he retaliated because his uncle was murdered, and he burnt our house down, my mother and I. My father was in prison awaiting bond. He just got picked up. This was in 78, 79, around that time.
You guys were, but I mean, did you get out of the house, or you guys?
Well,
weren't even there?
My mother saved my life. She handed me to a fireman on a fire escape, and my older sister was supposed to be behind her holding on to her gown, and she got scared because her dog ran in the room. And my sister dropped my mom's gown and ran to get her dog, and when she ran into the bedroom, it collapsed. And my mom couldn't get her, and then the fireman pulled my mom out, and the whole house went down. And my sister, my older sister, died, Tara.
Okay. So
that's how I, that was a big event in my life, a watershed event in my life, because all of a sudden I had someone who used to take care of me and like boss me around, and now all of a sudden I'm the only child, at that time. And my father goes to prison, and my mother remarries, and she remarries a big drug trafficker, and she gave me he gave her they had a baby, which was my baby brother, my little brother, whom I loved. And he was everything to me. And I always wanted to protect him and things like that. And the things that were going on in the house as far as the money and the drugs being hidden and the cops coming in, kicking the doors down, and the state police raiding our house. And people in the neighborhood never wanted their kids to play with me. I was ostracized. I was blackballed. People would call me, "Your father's a jailbird." In school, I was embarrassed. I was humiliated. And
kids are dicks.
Oh yeah, yes, they could be mean. And I just remember, telling myself, my father and my stepfather were always teaching me about how to how to steal something, how to stay away from the cops, how to carry a baseball bat with you with a glove just in case you get in a problem. You could hit somebody with the bat, but if a cop stops you, you could say, "Hey, I'm on my way to playing softball." Shit
right.
Like that, like little stuff they would teach me as a kid, how to hide drugs, how to hide money, how to do all this shit. And it was stuff I was completely turned off because I was like, I don't want to live that kind of life. That's not for me. You know, I wanted nothing to do with that. I was disgusted. I was embarrassed. I was humiliated because of that, what that life brought me and brought the pain it brought me.
Yeah, you're growing up around kids that have normal lives.
Yeah,
They got a dad.
yes.
They've got a mom and a
Yes,
dad.
and at one time I had a dad and a stepfather in prison. At one time I went to Trenton State Prison on a visit, and a month later I was in Danbury, Connecticut at the federal prison to see my stepfather. So I grew up in prison waiting room and visiting rooms, playing those little tic-tac-toe games and Connect Four. I was one of those kids.
Yeah.
So, and I also know what it's like to have a loved one incarcerated, and I know that the family does the time just as much as the person. You know, the family suffers too. You know,
Right.
because your dad's not there, your mom's got to find another way to get a job or make money, and you know, it's a ripple effect. It's a terrible effect. So I never wanted nothing to do with that life.
Right.
So I said, I'm going to do, I don't have any positive male role models, but I have a lot of negative ones. So I'm going to learn from them. See, they're going to, everything that they do, I'm going to do the opposite. I just figured out this formula. It wasn't like Einstein E equals 2 m² or whatever.
Yeah.
It was my little theory of relativity. I'm like, well, I'm just going to do the opposite of these guys, and I'm going to do something, respectful and honorable. So I joined the military as a young man, and when I got in the military,
Which branch?
Navy. I joined the Navy, and I loved it. I finally got an opportunity. My whole life I was told, you're going to be like your dad. You're going to end up in prison, and then I would start acting out that way in school and things like that. I'd gotten arrested as a juvenile, disorderly conduct, shoplifting, and people would just tell me, you're just going to end up like your dad, and I believed it for a while. And when I joined the Navy, that was the first time I went in the Navy, and I loved it. I loved the structure. I loved, the whole idea of, honor, courage, and commitment, all the core values they preached down. And it was something I wanted to be. It was something I aspired to be. I would watch TV and watch the movies, and I would say, wow, I really want to do that one day. So I did it. And while I was there, lo and behold, they said, I picked a job, and they said, you'd be a great military police officer. And I'm like, wow, that's pretty crazy. So they sent me to the Navy Police Academy in Lackland, Texas. And when I got in the police academy, when they were showing us how to search people, and they would bring in like actors from like the local dinner theater to come in and play criminals, right? And they would have them come in, and they would hide drugs in a house, like a crime scene scenario, and you would have to respond like a domestic, and it would turn into a domestic to a drug possession to something, and you had to, they were grading us. Well, I just always know this is how you search him. Keep him here, separate him. Oh, here, it's probably in his sock. Oh, he's got something in his pocket. He keeps fidgeting. All this stuff my dad and my stepdad taught me, like I just keyed in on that. And then they thought I was like the greatest thing in the world.
Right.
They're like, oh my God, this guy's great. This guy's freaking,
You've been getting
he's
tutored.
Dirty Harry.
You've been being tutored for the
Yeah,
last 25
he's Dirty
years.
Harry. We would do these scenes where we would pull people over, and I would search the car and find the drugs right away because I knew where the hiding spots were. My dad taught me. They all taught me. So, so basically, I ended up graduating first in my class, which was the first time I'd ever been first in anything in my life. And they made me the honor graduate, and they brought me before this big crowd and these. The commanding officer, they had medals, ribbons down to here, and all these important people were praising me in front of all these people. And they were telling me that I was this great guy, and I was the top performer and the distinguished honor graduate. And I actually at first thought they were putting me on. I'm like, no, this is going to be a joke. Like Ashton Kutcher is going to come, and this is punked, right? I'd never. And from that point, they told me, since you're the honor graduate, you have the choice. You could pick a specialty school. And I said, well, what schools do you have available? And they told me, we have investigator. You could be a bodyguard for an admiral, someone important, a dignitary, a state of, like a secretary of the Navy or somebody like real important. Be a personal bodyguard, wear civilian clothes, and just drive around with them and go on all these little trips around the world. Or we have canine, dog handling. And I always had dogs. my mother, we always had German Shepherds, we always had Doberman Pinschers, and my mom used to raise dogs. So I came from a family, that, loved animals. And I loved animals too. So she said, I said, well, can I go and look and see what the canine school's about? And the lady said, sure. Well, we'll bring you over there. They're going to do a demonstration.
Right.
And I remember I showed up and I saw this guy come out with this camouflage uniform on, creases so sharp you'd cut your fingers on them if you touched them. And he had this big, beautiful German Shepherd next to him. And the dog was walking at the heel. And there's a man out in the field with the bite suit, being an aggressive person, because he was going to send the dog for the bite.
Yeah.
And I remember he sent that dog. He said, get him. That dog ran in the field, tackled that guy down in that big bite suit. And I just remember looking at it and I said, that's me. That's my life. That's what I want to do. And then from there, I went into the canine program, and I was a drug detection dog handler, bomb detection dog handler. I was in 2 tours in Iraq, counter IED, looking for bombs.
Okay.
And it was a pretty chaotic time when I was over there. This was right after the invasion, during the election time frame, and it was a crazy time over there. It was a lot of death and destruction over there. And
Are you talking Iraqi freedom, or are you talking about?
No, the Iraqi freedom. Yeah,
okay.
2003, not 91.
Yeah.
Not 91.
Say.
I'm too young for 91.
Okay.
I was, so.
Yeah, it's funny. The you mentioned that I never think of I never think of the drug dogs as far as being in the military, but I guess
big business. Drug dogs right now. I mean, in the military, we have a drug problem too. I mean, our drug dogs sweep all the barracks rooms, all the ships.
I don't even think about that.
Yeah,
I can see the bomb.
Yes,
but not.
Yeah.
Well, okay, so
drugs.
Anyway.
Yeah, we have sailors. Unfortunately, we go to foreign ports, maybe Thailand or some other place, and they bring drugs on the ship.
Oh,
okay, and because they want to traffic them, because they can get them there cheap, and sometimes they're even legal. They buy them in a pharmacy and stuff like that, and they bring them on the ship illegally, and then we sweep and we find it.
Okay.
So, and sometimes sailors deal drugs and shit out of their rooms on the base.
Well, those ships are like small cities, right? They're massive,
some like a
aren't they?
carrier, of course.
So
yeah,
like
like
5,000 people.
5,000 people. You could be there for 3 years and not see everybody. You'll be on one side, and the other person may be on the other. You could both be there at the same time, but never came near each other.
Wow.
Yeah, it's one of those things. It's real. If you've ever have an opportunity to go on a tour of an aircraft carrier, do it. It's something amazing. And so basically, I was a canine handler. I ended up. I went on from there, and I was selected to be the 6th Fleet Chief Master at Arms of the Admiral ship, which is the USS Mount Whitney. And on that ship, I became the anti-terrorism officer, security officer, and I was an investigator, and that's where I finished out my career, and I retired from there.
I was gonna say, how long was it before you were in Iraq? I mean, like.
Oh, I had a 20-year career. So I had 2 tours in Iraq. I was part of the Odyssey Dawn, which was the invasion of Libya. I was other operations too. As far as a canine handler, I would get assigned to the Secret Service sometimes to do bomb sweeps for like Vice President Cheney, Donald Rumsfeld, and Governor Arnold Schwarzenegger when he came to Tokyo. I lived in Europe for 5 years. I lived in Asia for 3 years. I lived in the Middle East for 2 years. I lived in the West Coast. I lived, I got an opportunity to travel the world. I've circled the globe,
right.
Several times. So it was a great experience, being in the Navy.
When did you retire?
2012.
Okay.
And when I retired, I was looking for a new career.
How old were you then?
38.
38. How old are you now?
47.
Okay.
Yeah, 47. And I was looking for a new career, and I was I'd done police work for damn near, 20 years, and I said, okay, I'm going to walk into a federal law enforcement job. I was a dog handler. I had all these skills. So I was looking for like customs or maybe TSA, but all their duty stations were somewhere I didn't want to go.
Right.
And at the time I was married, and we wanted to relocate and live in Florida because my mother had moved to Florida many years before with my brother. So they moved to South Florida. So that's where I wanted to eventually be. So I ended up taking a job I was looking on this federal job search, and I see the Bureau of Prisons. And from there I applied, and I was selected. I went and did the testing, and I went in there, and they hired me. So I started there August 12th, 2012, exactly 1 month after I retired. I started at the prison. I started their academy at the prison.
How long does that take? They have an academy?
Yeah, they have an academy. It's in Glencoe, Georgia. It's 4 weeks.
I didn't know that.
4 weeks of correctional academy. And they also bring actors in, too, from a dinner theater to play inmates, too.
Okay.
They do. Yeah. So it's kind of funny, though, you know. But so I did that. I ended up getting hired with them, and I was the type of guy when I went out there, I know what it was like to be in a visiting room. I know what it's like to have a father incarcerated, a stepfather. I had cousins that were in federal prison. They were drug traffickers in the 80s when the crack cocaine came in, and they jumped in on that easy money, that free money.
Right.
And they all paid dearly for it, and their families paid too dearly for it. And, you know, these mandatory minimums came in and just started wiping people out, you know.
Yeah.
I had a cousin that got 15 years on a first offense for trafficking because he wouldn't talk. Matt, he wouldn't give up anybody.
Well, that was a mistake.
I
had to
listen,
cut everybody's throat.
Well, his wife, my cousin, she would say, you know, she would agree with you, but he was one of those guys from Philly that just felt, you know, I'm not talking, and they hit him with it, you know, and everyone else talked on him though. Everybody else sung like canaries on him, you know, and
the same guys that you're going to prison for turn on you immediately.
Exactly. So he was a stand-up guy, and I give him a lot of respect for that because, you know, he really paid the price, and he did all his time. He got home, and she waited for him, and they're still happily married.
That's nuts. See,
Yes.
That's the part that never happened.
Yes,
You know,
they're still happily married.
the only guys
She
I
waited.
know that happens with is if it's short time, couple years, or if they've got a bunch of money. Like I know
There was
multi-millionaires.
neither.
Yeah, exactly.
The
That's what I'm
government
saying.
took every penny.
That almost never happens.
They took every penny. They seized my cousin's house. They took everything. Took every fucking thing because he wouldn't cooperate. So I kind of knew how the system was working. So I also have empathy because I you know, when I got to the prison and I actually saw firsthand when I started reading PSIs and things and seeing that some of these guys got 50 years, never touched a gun. No one got so much as a bloody nose in the indictment, and they're getting hit with all this time for drugs, you know. But then you got a pedophile that comes in, does his 3 or 4 years at the low, walks out, and this guy that's got 30 years for crack's got to watch this son of a bitch come in and out of the prison. It's so fucked up. It's, you know, can I say that word?
Yeah.
Good. I'm gonna say it. Fucked up. It's fucked up. And so I just remember when I got hired, we had an indoctrination at the training center. You go there, you stand up, you introduce yourself to everybody. And I just remember I stood up the first day and I said, "Hi, my name is Rob Farlow. I was in the Navy. And if you do something wrong in front of me, I will report you." And I told everybody that from day one because I will.
Right.
Because, you know, if you do something wrong, I'll write you up too. But if an officer does something wrong, I'm going to report them too. You know, it works both ways because you can't call these guys dirtbags if you're doing bad shit and falsifying documents and you know, assaulting people, excessive force, or planning contraband in their fucking cells and shit.
Right.
You know, so I just put everyone on notice that, you know, people called me a rat, whatever. I don't give a shit. I knew from that point going forward, anybody that worked with me would be somebody that was cool with that. You know what I mean? So if you didn't want to work with me, that's for you.
Yeah.
You know, I don't care. I don't want to work with you anyway.
Yeah.
Listen,
I'm not. You're not there to make friends.
Not there to make friends. No, I'm not there. I'm there to give you what you got coming, and go home.
All right.
You know what I'm saying? That's it. You know, I'm not there to be petty, to violate anyone's rights, to mess up anybody's locker or cell. And that kind of stuff makes me sick to my stomach. And I didn't tolerate that. And people that worked with me knew that.
Well, so which
Pen 1.
prisons you were predominantly in?
Yeah,
Pen
I was
1?
assigned to USP 1, which was the max pen there. But the thing about Coleman is, the good thing is, they have 2 pens. You got Pen 1. You got Pen 2, which is called like a drop pen, more of a senior citizen pen. Like if you get really old at Pen 1 and you can go there. Or if you a gang drop, you dropped out and you debriefed, then you can go to Pen 2, you know, and that's the difference is basically you have Pepsi and Diet Pepsi. Pen 1 is Pepsi, Pen 2 is Diet Pepsi.
Right.
And you got the medium, and you got the low, and then you got a female camp at the time. It was a female camp. Mm-hmm. And the good thing about Coleman is, as an officer, you can go on the roster and you could do overtime, or you could get sent to any other prison. So you get to see all the different levels of custody as a corrections officer. So one day, I worked at USP 1, and then all of a sudden they go, we got overtime at the low. Well, everybody at Penn 1 wants to jump on that because that's easy 8. That's an easy 8 overtime.
Right.
And Penn 1, you're running all the time with the body alarms, you got to inventory, pack property, all that shit, And you go to Penn 2, or you go to the camp, or you go to the or you go to the medium, and it's an easier day. You know what I mean? And so I would take advantage of those opportunities, and I would work at all the different custody levels, because when I went into something, just like anything, when I enter it, I always see myself with a long-term strategic plan. I say, okay, today's an officer, 5 years, I want to be a lieutenant.
Right.
You understand? So I have a plan going in, because I jump into things with both feet. I don't half-ass stuff.
All right. So, okay, sorry.
Go ahead. No,
I was going to say, so at Penn 1, like, how often are those guys locked up?
Well, they were locked down pretty frequently because of the violence.
Right.
Now, I retired before COVID, and I hear now it's just pretty much a shoe. Now they just lock it down 24/7, and very, very limited movement.
Yeah.
And it's but when I was there, we would lock down for violence. We would have a fight, maybe possibly a gang beef that could overflow into the next day or the next shift, and we would just, as a precaution, keep them locked down for a week, 2 weeks, a month, and to let everything cool down. So we were locked down quite frequently because of violence. We had a murder there. We've had many assaults, many rapes, and I was part of the evidence recovery team. I was on a special team there, and I used to actually go and collect evidence for crimes and things like that. So I got to process stuff and train with the FBI and all that kind of cool shit.
Yeah, I don't know if obviously you weren't there if you were there in 2012. When I was in the medium, I remember they had like 6 guys got stabbed, a couple people got shot. We could hear the helicopters, and they locked us down. That was in the medium then. Yeah. What was funny about that was there was a newspaper article that came out, and it said that the Coleman complex, like, there were several people that were like life flighted to the hospital. Yeah. There were several shootings. There was 6 people got hurt, an officer. So they go on, and then they put that the complex holds such notorious criminals as, and
Matthew Cox.
Yeah, no. one of them was Matthew Cox. So it said Conrad Black,
yes.
who was at the low.
Yes.
Me, yes. I was at the medium. Like, everybody they named, none of them were in that riot, like in the pen.
Yeah, we're in the pen.
But if you read it, it seems, I'm like, it looks like I was in the pen, in the riot. I mean, practically puts me in the riot, which was hilarious. Cause,
the media loves to spin their tails.
The closest I got was hearing the helicopters, some gunshots, and them screaming, lockdown. Yeah. We were locked down for like 3 days.
It was, coming from an environment, a combat environment, where, you're constantly on guard and your situational awareness is always high, you're heightened alert. Working at the pen, it was like pretty easy for me to transition because I was used to that, working in a high stressful environment.
Right.
In the military, whether it's finding bombs or investigating crimes or things like that, or planning against repelling possible terrorist attacks against our assets and stuff. So I'm kind of used to that, like an adrenaline junkie type of guy. So I like that kind of occupation,
So, okay, Whitey Bulger, right?
Yeah, Whitey.
Where was he?
He was at Penn 2. I saw him a couple times when I would do overtime with him. And I remember one time, because he was the only living inmate that actually served time in Alcatraz.
Yeah.
At one time. So I remember saying something to him, like, I was doing an overtime, and he had a walker. He would go with this walker. And I remember saying something to him, and I was like, Mr. Bulger, I said to him, you're a pretty popular guy. And he was like, yeah, that's my problem. Like, that's my problem, kid. Like, muttered it under his breath. And I remember he said something along the lines like, one of the counselors said to him, he was complaining about something, and she said, I guess you don't like the accommodations here. And he said, no, I was better in Alcatraz. I wish I could go back there, or something like that. He made some kind of off the thing, but they transferred him to Hazleton, and he was dead within 6 or 7 hours. Right? Was it Hazleton? Lee County, I think it was.
I don't know. I do know
one of them. I forget. I think it was Hazleton, maybe, or
I know they killed him.
Killed him immediately. within 6 hours of getting off the bus. You know, that guy should have been in segregation. There's no way. That was
he should have been in the medium.
Absolutely.
He's an old man.
Absolutely,
He's not,
absolutely. I remember I was sitting on dry cell. You know what dry cell is? If someone was suspected of ingesting contraband in a visiting room, you have to keep them in an isolation cell, and they have to have 3 successful bowel movements.
Okay.
And you have to watch it. So
right.
you talk about a shitty day.
Yeah.
It's a shitty day.
Yeah.
And I remember I had an inmate on dry cell, and I don't know, some guys get angry with the term inmate, prisoner. I don't know, you know, some guys are sensitive about that. But
I'm a convict.
Yeah,
whatever,
I just say prisoner, inmate at the time, because that's what it was at the time. You're still a human being, but at the time you were classified as an inmate, but a human being, but an inmate. But and he was in the shoe with Whitey the night before he transferred. And he told me that Whitey told him, he said, yeah, I'm going to this place, and yeah, I'm going to die there. I remember him telling me that like 5 days after. I was sitting on this guy watching him, and he told me he was in the shoe with him, and Whitey told him, yeah, they're going to kill me. I'm not going to make it. You know, so it was kind of, I don't know. I think somebody orchestrated that. I don't get conspiracy theory, but you know, that was like a rookie mistake for the shift lieutenant to not recognize this guy and know that he had separatists and things like that. I mean, they usually know that before you get off the bus. That was just, I don't know. That just didn't smell right to me.
Well, yeah, I mean, we were talking about this, like the custody, or not the custody level, but the actual security around, let's say, like the pens and the medium. And you know, look, I was in the medium. I mean, I've gone to the pen. I was in the pen for 24 hours.
Okay.
I was there in the shoe.
You got your street cred then, I guess.
Listen, in the shoe, and the whole time they were walking me in there because I had to go to the shoe.
Oh, I'm sure they were.
Listen, I was like, hey, bro. To the CEO, I was like, oh, you can't put me in with one of these guys. I mean, these guys have tattoos on their eyeballs and they're fucking. And I'm like, and he's like, no, Cox, it's okay.
Yeah, you're going.
Don't worry, you're gonna. We know better. Yeah. And they were so cool. Like they put me in a room. They go, look, Cox, I got you some books. Yeah. I got this. I got that. I remember he said,
you're a medium prisoner, and we know that.
At that time, I was a low.
Okay, well, they know that, and they don't want nothing. I mean, they don't want nothing bad to happen. If they put you in with a pen guy, that's a big no-no.
Oh,
exactly.
Those guys, when you're walking in the shoe, you could see the rec yard. Man, they look like caged fucking animals, and I don't mean just because of the cages. They're the tension, and they're tatted up, and they just look like they were bottled energy. And I remember thinking, oh, hell no.
Yeah.
You can't put me in. And they were like, no, don't worry. And, you know, I was there 24 hours. Next day, they called me out. They said, hey, Cox, should have been locked up. We're bringing you back.
Yeah.
Give me about an hour.
Because they didn't have a shoe. Well, you were going to the medium. What was the shoe full in the medium?
Yeah. What's so funny is the one guy that I went with, he went to the medium. And that was it. They were like, full. And then they brought me to the pen, and I was like, this is fucked up.
Yeah.
And luckily, 24 hours later, I was right back,
Well, I would know when we would get a guy from the low or something at the shoe, like an overnight person, they're not going to give you any trouble. They just want to get put in their cell, and you're not going to hear a peep out of them. No. It's the guys that are, it's the guys on your range that are from Pen 1 that, are the ones that are going to be kicking doors and screaming and throwing piss and all that shit. And
so the pen, like, listen, this is what kills me is that the custody levels are so fucking outrageous. Like, I went to a medium.
Yeah.
First of all, you got I had over 20 years. Yeah. You're an escape risk. Are you out of the pen? I mean, out of the medium? Like, you're not getting out of the pen. Nobody's getting out of the
escape risk because of the time, or did you have an attempt?
Time. If you had over 20 years, you had to go to the medium.
Okay.
Under 20, you could go to the low. Under 10, you can go to a camp. But as soon as I got to the medium, my counselor was like, "Yeah, you shouldn't be here."
Yeah. I'm glad you had a counselor that had some brains that actually recognized that, because some people would just throw you out there and say, fend for yourself.
Yeah, well, I mean, she did. I mean, what'd she do? All she did was say, you really shouldn't be here, but you're here.
Oh, she didn't? Okay.
Oh, she didn't. They didn't move me. No, I stayed there.
Can I ask you her name?
Her name was, I don't know her first name. Her name was Bates. She died about 5 or 6 months later.
I know who you're talking about.
Smoked like a chimney.
Yeah, I know who you're talking about.
Super cool.
Yeah. I know who you're talking about. She was a salty lady. Yeah,
Yeah.
she'd been there a while. Yeah, I know who you're talking about.
She died.
A heart attack. Or something.
Yeah, a heart attack.
Yeah,
Inner
yeah.
sleep or something like that. She was like in her 50s, but she smoked like a chimney,
she was a
bro.
Chain smoker, definitely.
Even though there was there's no tobacco on the compound, man, she didn't give a fuck. She walked right out on the top ledge and would smoke and come back in, be in there for 20 minutes, come back out, smoke.
Yeah, she reeked of smoke.
Yeah,
I know. Yeah, I know.
But very nice, super cool. And thank God, not that due diligent on her paperwork, because I actually came in and I had restitution, right? So I got in there, and she has me filling out my paperwork, and I said, okay, she sign here. She goes, okay, well, you have to make restitution payments. And I went, what? And she goes, you have to make restitution payments. And I went, no. I said, listen, my judge said I owe restitution. I said, but I don't have to make any payments while I'm incarcerated. I said, I have no money. I have no job.
And 20 cents an hour is
right.
You get the prison job pay scale.
Well, and I had just gotten there, and she looked at me and she said, well, first of all, she said, you don't have any money on your books yet.
Yeah, okay.
And she said, but you have to pay. And I went, listen, I said, my lawyer made 2 arguments with restitution. 1, I shouldn't have to pay interest. And 2, I said I shouldn't have to pay while I was incarcerated. Yeah. I said, and I know those are the only 2 arguments she won. By the way, this is a complete lie.
Sure.
And she said, okay, well, I'm going to look into it. I'll take a look at your judgment commitment. I'll see what it says. She said, I'll get back with you. And I said, okay, cool. I get up and I leave. I don't hear anything from her. 6 months later, no, she dies several months later. A few months later, I get called into the office because it's team.
Yeah, team. You got your team, unit team. Yeah.
Right. So the unit manager's there, my counselor's there, and they said, okay, Cox, yeah, you're fine. Everything's good. I mean, you got a lot of time. Like, just try and keep yourself busy, stay out of trouble.
Yeah.
And they went, you're not paying restitution. and they go, but you're not on, what do they call it when you didn't pay? You're not on
like a garnishment type of thing where they deduct it out automatically if you get any money in your books or something.
No, well, you're not on where they put you on refusal. Oh, you're not on refusal. She goes, you're not on refusal, but you're not paying. And I went, well, I don't have to pay. And actually, this was a guy, and I said, no, I don't have to pay. This is my new counselor. And I went, I don't have to pay. And he goes, well, why is that? I said, no. I said, I went over this with Miss Bates. And they were like, well, she's not here. I said, I understand. I said, I explained what happened with my lawyer. Boom, boom, boom. I said, she checked into it. I said, she called me back in. She said, you're right. I looked into it. I've never seen it before, but you don't have to pay. And I said, cool. And I said, so I've never paid. And he went, I said, you can check. Look in my file. And the file's there. It's this thick. And I go, look at my file. And he goes, yeah. He said, I'll check. I'll let you know. I said, okay, cool. I get up and I leave. 6 months later, I have another counselor now.
Yeah, boy, you're nailing it right on the head how it works in there, huh?
Listen, so this time, they go, you're not on FRP refusal. That's what they call it.
Yeah.
You're not on FRP.
You're triggering me right now with all this lingo you're saying, but go ahead.
He goes, you're not on FRP refusal. And I went, right. And I said, yeah, I know. He said, but you're not paying. And I went, no. I said, listen. I said, I went over this with Miss Bates. I went over this with Mr. Johnson or whatever that guy's name was. I said, and I explained it all again. And I said, you can look. I said, they both checked it out. And he goes, no. He said, I'll check it out. He's out, and the unit manager's there, and he's like, yeah. He goes, we'll let you know. I said, okay, cool. I get up and leave. That guy, for like the next 2 years, I think he was my counselor. Then I had another counselor, which was like Miss Brown or somebody.
Miss Brown, yeah, sure.
And then went through the same thing with her. I go to the low. This first day, Mr. Smith.
Mr. Smith, yeah, Mr. Smith. Mr. Smith.
And he was like, oh, I remember listen, I liked him, but he was a dick to me.
He'd been around a long time, Mr. Smith. Right?
Here's what he said. I remember he said to me, he looked at it and he goes, Jesus Christ, Cox. He goes, you got 26 years. He goes, your nuts are going to be hanging down by your knees when you get out.
Oh, my God.
And I just thought,
oh my
God, horrible. And he goes, well, what's up with this with your FRP? And I said, bro, I don't have to pay FRP. So I tell him the same thing. Then I go to Miss Jenkins. About a week later, I'm in Miss Jenkins. Yeah. God, she was something else. So I go to Miss Jenkins. And she goes, what's up with your FRP? You're not paying. And he happens to walk in. I said, Mr. Smith just asked me the same thing. I said, he checked out my file. I said, I don't have to pay. And now that's not what happened at all. I just told him the story, and
Yeah.
he goes, yeah. He said it's weird, but he's never paid. He's never had to pay. He said if several people have looked into it, he didn't have to pay. And she goes, oh, okay. I go, can you make a notation or something? 'Cause
Yeah,
I said,
in
you
the
guys keep
computer,
saying
yeah.
this, and she goes, I'll put in a note. I said, okay.
She didn't do it.
Yeah, I doubt she did it.
Yeah.
Listen, I never was asked about it again. I went 12, almost 13 years until I went to RDAP. And in RDAP, they caught it.
Okay.
When it goes to Grand Prairie, that's when they caught it.
Yeah.
But yeah. So anyway, I just thought that was comical.
I got you.
So I did 3 years in the medium, but honestly, like, so the pen, I mean, you know how it's set up. Like, nobody's getting out of there.
No.
The medium, nobody's getting out of there.
Shit, we run to get out of there after a shift so we don't get mandated, you know, because a lot of times you get off and you got no relief, and they go, you're mandated. You got to stay, you know. So now you're
what do you
doing a mandate. In other words, I finished my 8 hours.
Right.
And no relief shows up. Someone banged in, called in sick.
Okay.
They got no relief from me. So then they call me on the phone and say, sorry, you got to stay there for another 8 hours. Do you want to stay there, or I can swap you to another unit, but you got to stay.
Yeah, I understand.
So
I
you
mean,
get
but you're not
mandated.
escaping.
No. But I'm saying that's why officers at the end of their shift, when they get relieved,
They bolt.
there's the lieutenant's office. You go the other way.
Yeah.
Because they'll stop you and say, wait, you know, and you try to run the fuck out of there and get
Right.
to the gate. Like, you're trying to escape too, you know, but they have to buzz you through. You know that through the Sally ports. So they'll tell the control officer to keep the door locked and not let you out. So they're locking you in too.
Yeah, it's the security is outrageous.
Sure.
It's outrageous.
Well, it's gotta be.
Even in
It's
the low. You're we mentioned it before. Like, you're not. It's too late. It's the what? There's motion sensitive.
Yeah, everything. Yeah.
There's 4 layers of concertina wire,
Mm-hmm.
2 fences, and a patrol guard that drives around.
Yeah.
I mean, it's insane.
And that's just what you know.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. There's just no way.
Yeah. There's more.
Oh, I'm sure.
Yeah.
Maybe.
I can't divulge,
No,
but
I
there's
understand.
more.
It doesn't
You're not
matter.
getting out of
I'm
there.
not getting over the fence.
No. Mm-mm.
Yeah, it's bad.
No. Matter of fact, there was one guy that actually escaped while I would not at Coleman, but another pen. I think it was in Texas, and he got over the electrical fence, and they were so puzzled how he did. Now they caught him right away, but he got over the electrical fence. They were so puzzled how he did it that they actually told him, if you show us how you did it, instead of the 5 years or whatever on the escape, we'll give you like 18 months.
All right.
But you got to give it. And he did a video and demoed it.
Nice.
And he used he stole plastic things from wreck, and he put them on the barbed wire, so it didn't on the electrical, so it didn't. And he put his foot there, and then he had put his hand there, and he was like just doing that to get over the fence, so he couldn't get shocked. He showed him in a video how he defeated it.
Man.
So it was kind of like, show us how you did it, and we'll so you don't get hit with the whole thing, but. He did. So he was telling him how he defeated the fence, because we were like, how the hell did he get over there? So, and then of course they make recommendations and fix the things and stuff like that, But yeah, we have 24-hour electrical security fences. We have a very high-tech system. Nobody's getting out of there,
And what was the majority of your time? You said was basically the pen, right?
Pen 1, yeah. Pen 1, yeah.
So what's that like? Like, what's a day at the pen? Like, not a lockdown day, but like a kind of
a regular day is, it pretty much runs itself, but you have to be aware, because at any minute you're going to hear the tones. The body alarm is going to go off, and you're going to have to respond, lock your unit down, and do things like that. It can go from mundane to complete sheer terror. I mean, like 2 guys are stabbing each other.
Right.
I mean, it can go from that to a big fight in a unit. 10 guys are rumbling, locking a sock, all that shit going down. And, and it's one of those things, like, it's something different every day. And you have this, I don't know, you have this heightened sense of, at any moment something can happen. So it's kind of like, I don't know, it was a little exciting for me. I like that.
Well, it's funny that you say lock in a sock. Like, that sounds benign, but
No, that'll fuck you up.
fuck
A
you
lock in
all
a
up.
sock. Oh God, yeah.
so one of the probably the most blood I think I've ever seen was a guy get hit in the back of the head.
Yeah.
The guy, I don't know if it was a belt or a sock, just ran up behind him and hit him in the
On
head
a phone, a guy
3 or
hit
4
him in the
times.
One time. right when he was on the phone, I remember he came out of his cell like Indiana Jones with the whip, and he was like this, and I'm just watching him, and he went like this, and the guy was on the phone, and by the time he looked, here it just his eye socket gone, everything gone. I mean, right there, and he was just, pouring blood. He was out like a light. The guy just put it in his pocket, walked in the cell, and just started packing his shit because he knew he was getting locked up. And that was it. I locked everybody down. I came to his cell. He's like, I'm ready. It was just like that.
Jesus.
So I worked there, and I never had a problem, Matt, because I gave people respect. I always treated people how I'd like to be treated. I never abused anybody. I don't, I would bump into, even now on my YouTube channel, I have, guys that, were inmates and worked in my, that were in the units with me and stuff that, send me, comments on my YouTube page, a channel, and like everything this guy says is legit, because I tell prison stories and
right.
things like that on my YouTube channel.
Where are you from? I mean, where are you running your channel?
At my house.
No, I mean, I'm saying it's Tampa,
Orlando.
Oh,
Orlando.
okay, Orlando.
Yeah.
Okay.
I don't have a nice big, fancy studio like you, with pictures of President Trump. By the way, 2024, when he's president again, put that painting in with your pardon application. Because I think he'll sign it. He'll see that and he'll say, Matthew Cox, let's clear his record.
I have a bunch of these.
Send him one with your pardon application.
I'll give you one if you want it.
I like it, man.
Yeah.
I would appreciate that. That would be awesome.
I have them in the garage.
I like
you
that,
didn't go in the garage. I'll take
No, I didn't
I'll
see
take
it.
you in the garage and show you where we.
I didn't see it, but I love, I'm looking at him, and you're very talented, Matt. You're very talented, buddy. I like that.
Appreciate it.
Definitely. So I was there, and I was working there. I worked there for 7 years. Loved the job. Was doing great. And all of a sudden, things were going on in my life. I was going through a rough divorce. I was down in the dumps. I was drinking a lot and doing things like that, because financially I was paying lawyers all the time, and my house was gone, and I had to sell everything and all this stuff like this. And, I remember there was a big staph outbreak in the prison, staph infection.
Yeah.
We would always have. They had a Legionnaires outbreak. Legionnaires I thought was cured in the 70s, but they had a Legionnaires disease outbreak at the female camp. They would always have, whether it was lice or crabs or friggin' whatever it was, and they had a bad staph outbreak in Pen 1, staph infection. And I remember a couple weeks after that, maybe 2 weeks or so after that, I developed an eye infection really bad. And it started in one eye, and my eye swelled up, and it was like very sore. It was like someone just like beat me up and punched me, but it was just like, the pressure on it. And it was, next thing you know, it started to bleed a little bit out of my tear duct. So I'm one of those guys that last minute doesn't go to the doctor. It's always like, I'll be fine. I still worked, everything, I would use. And then all of a sudden I said, okay, maybe I got pink eye. Let me go in and get checked. So I go to one of these clinics, and they tell me it's pink eye. Oh, at this time it spread to the other eye too. It went over finally. And they gave me medication for pink eye. I put it in my eyes. I did it for a couple of days. It got worse. Finally, I woke up one morning and my eyes were just dried blood shut. I had to go in the sink and just throw, and it was like The Exorcist, man. So I went back to the doctor. I went to the VA, and with an optometrist, and he said, no, that's not pink eye. You have a staph infection in your eye, and it needs to be treated because it can go in your body and hurt you and kill you.
Yeah.
So he gives me antibiotics and medicine and says it'll clear up in a couple days. And I took the medicine. A couple days, it went away, and it was fine. And I was, everything was fine. My vision wasn't affected. It went away. It just went away. About 2 or 3 weeks later, after it went away, I started developing serious back pains. And I have a bad back anyway from being in the military all those years and backpacking, carrying a rucksack or lifting up my sea bag or, going up and down ladder wells and ships and going up and down the tiers and all that shit. And, but this was a different kind. It felt like someone had a knife in me and they were just twisting it, like right in this one particular spot. So, of course, I'm laying flat. I'm taking hot, cold, hot, putting ice packs on it, doing all kinds of things. I got to get my back checked. This is hurting me. So I go in and
You didn't think it was related?
no, didn't put 2 and 2 together and make 4, man. And I went and I got an X-ray. I went into the emergency room. I got an X-ray, and they said, "Well, your back is damaged, but I don't see anything, really bad." And they said, "But other than that, I don't see, anything in that area."
What do you mean damage?
Well, I had degenerative disc disease,
okay, which
and
is
things.
unrelated.
Unrelated,
Okay,
yeah. It was just I had a lot of damage on my back, from that. So they told me, here's some muscle relaxers, take these, blah blah blah. Right, okay. So I'm taking muscle relaxers, and my back is still hurting, but since I'm taking the muscle relaxers, it's masking it.
Yeah.
And next thing I know, about a week later, I come home from work. I was working morning watch. I get off at 8 a.m., 12 midnight to 8 a.m. I drive home. I lay down in my bed, and I woke up a couple hours later, and I urinated myself, and I couldn't move my legs. They were just jello. They were done. So my girlfriend, at the time, she called 911. They had me out of there in an ambulance. They took me to the emergency room, and I was in the emergency room. I had to pee so bad, but I couldn't urinate. My bladder was like, I couldn't urinate. So they had to catheter me.
Right.
And I don't know if you've ever had that.
No.
Okay. Well,
Yeah, I've been lucky.
It's not good. And I'm totally anticipating this painful, thing. And they hit me with it, and I'm like, and I'm like, and next thing you know, I feel great because it's all, all that stuff is getting relieved. And the doctor's like, he's like, I don't know what's going on with you, because of course they think, I don't know, maybe they think because I'm a government employee, I'm trying to fake it to go out on a disability or some shit like that. I don't know, but there was a military doctor there that was a Naval Reserve doctor, and he saw my Iraq bracelet on, and he came in the emergency room and started talking to me, and I told him what was going on, and he said, send this guy for an MRI. I think he did an MRI. Sent me for an MRI. As soon as I get back from the MRI, 15 minutes later, he comes running in, and he's like, I got to get you on a helicopter and get you out of here. You have an abscess on your spine. And I'm like, an abscess? What, whatever. And I'm like, he's like, I got to get you to emergency room. I just got off the phone with a surgeon, a spinal surgeon. They're waiting for you. And I was like, oh shit, because I'm so freaking oblivious that I'm thinking I'm having a bad reaction to the muscle relaxers. And they'll probably give me a shot. And this will all come back, like no problem, right? Next thing I know, they wheel me out. They send me to the emergency room. Doctors are waiting for me, and this one doctor, I remember, he looked like Richard Dreyfuss on Jaws. Remember Richard Dreyfuss when he played in Jaws? Okay, he had a little bit of a beard, and he had that, and he said to me, Mr. Farlow, you have an abscess on your spine, and it's caused you to get paraplegia, and you will never walk again. And
this is before the surgery?
Right as they're the anesthesiologist is here asking me how much I weigh. He's here telling me. The paramedics are behind me, pushing me. And he said, right now I'm concerned about saving you from the neck, from the waist up. The waist down's gone. I'm like, Jesus Christ, this guy's telling me, he's like, you're never going to walk again. I remember him saying that, and he kept doing this in your head. It's never, you're never going to be able to walk again. He kept doing this. And I'm looking at him, and the lady asked me how much I weigh, and I said, give me enough to kill an elephant. And I told her that, the anesthesiologist, because I said, that's it, I don't want to live. You're telling me I'm never going to walk again? What the,
Right.
And they put me to sleep. I woke up the next day. It was my birthday. I was wrapped up like a mummy. I had a tube in my throat, a tube down there, a tube in my rear, and they were all looking at me when I came out of it, and they the doctor was talking to me, and he was telling me the same thing. You had an abscess. I had to cut your back open. You had staph infection that penetrated into your spinal cord at your T6 level, thoracic 6, and from that abscess pushing into your spinal cord, the infection, the pus, contaminated your spinal cord.
Yeah.
And it caused you to have paraplegia from the waist down. And I'm like, wow, I don't want to live no more.
At this point, can you feel your feet or anything?
Nothing. Everything's gone. It's all gone. I can't move. I can't feel. It's like jello. I feel everything from the waist up. They cut me right here. I was split down the spine like a Thanksgiving turkey. I'm cut right down, and because they had to open me up wide, and they had to clean all that infection out. They even had to remove 2 little bones that were there that were so infected that they were just brittle, that they didn't want them to break off, that they removed them. And they don't know very much about, they even like the best doctors in the world, I found this out after, but they only know a limited amount with your spine and your brain, how they communicate. They know how they know how like this releases this and all that, but they don't know how it works yet. They're still like, scratching the surface of that stuff, and now they're doing implants with chips and all that other stuff and stem cells. But I woke up the next day. They told me the news again. I thought it was a dream. It was my birthday. I'm paralyzed for the waist down. And that's when that's when, the nightmare all hit me. Now, in between this time, I left this out. It's very distasteful for me to talk about. But while I was going through this divorce, my brother was a heroin addict. And he had gotten sober, but then he fell off the wagon, and he was living in Fort Lauderdale with my mother. And he was starting to steal things from her. So I said, bring him up here. I have this big house, and I'm going to get him health insurance, I got him health insurance. I'm going to pay for it. I'm going to get him into a rehab. And while I did it and I brought him up there, he ended up committing suicide in my house, and he died in my arms. So this was all going on. My wife left me after that, and this had all spun, and then the staph infection, and now I'm paralyzed.
So this was a really shitty time.
This was you can't get any lower than this,
right.
And then my cat died, who was like my best cat, because I'm an animal lover. I had a cat. He was with me for 15 years, and he was like my best buddy, and he died, and it was all right after 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3. So it was a very bad time, and I just woke up and I said, I don't want to live no more. I want to die. And I was trying to ask people to bring a gun in so I could blow my brains out in the hospital, and they were trying to get me, they were, I was in the hospital for 3 months because my infection. What they have to do is they put me in an infectious disease ward with other people that were like compromised, because when you have a massive infection like that, your immune system's low.
Yeah.
So they have to put you in an isolation area, and they had to run IV antibiotics in my arm every day, 2 different bags, 2 different antibiotics, and they do it for 45 days straight. So it's like a full spectrum.
To try and kill
whatever it is. They treat you for every virus every infection known to man, and they give you the antibiotics for it. And it's like a 45-day, only intravenous, 2 bags a day, 2 different drugs. So I was going through that. And this is before COVID, all right? So that we're talking November 2019, I was paralyzed on my birthday. So I'm in the hospital November, December, January, February. Finally, they released me. And I end up going, they told me I would need assisted living forever, that I would need care, 24-hour care, a catheter. I wasn't able to pee on my own. I was wearing diapers. It's really a humbling experience when you're shitting yourself again like a baby and you're wearing diapers.
Right.
And you're watching TV, and then all of a sudden you're like, oh Jesus, I got to get changed. You know what I mean? It's very humbling, and I they were giving me a whole bunch of pain pills. They were giving me whatever prescriptions I wanted, Oxycontin, whatever the fuck I wanted, man, I got. Whatever I wanted,
Right.
And while I was, I would try to get people to smuggle me alcohol. It was like I was like in the prison. I was like paying off the CNAs, like the nurses' assistants.
Right.
Here's $20. Bring me back a little bottle of vodka when you go out. Like I was getting people to bring me contraband in, right? When I was in that thing, because I couldn't move myself,
Yeah.
And so I was working my, using my prison smarts to get things into me, even food, because they have you on this bland diet and whatever.
Yeah.
Pick me up a cheeseburger at, Checkers or something and bring it in. I would do things like that because I didn't give a fuck. I was going to die anyway. I knew as soon as I can get out of this, I can get around somewhere where I can get something, maybe some pills or whatever, and I'm going to just take them all and just, go to sleep forever.
No, I can understand.
Yeah. And so I'm taking all these pain pills, and they had me on a morphine pump, and, and next thing I know, I end up getting discharged, and I had a caregiver. She was an angel. She's an angel. I had physical therapists that were angels too, that came into my life and saved me. And I remember when I got home, and I had a friend. I wouldn't let anybody see me, not even my mother. I refused visits. I just didn't want anyone to. I didn't want people to feel sorry for me. Because I was a big guy. I worked out, I'm, this and that. I was in good shape. I'm a jiu-jitsu black belt. I'm an instructor. I've done this for 25 years. I've been doing this. The military, I was always known for my physical prowess, for my athleticism and stuff. And that was gone. That was gone. Not being able to work out, not being able to do jiu-jitsu, not being able to have sex. It's all gone. All taken from you. And I had no will to live. And I had a buddy, and he came to see me. And he said, I'm coming to your apartment, and I'm not taking no for a fucking answer. You're going to let me in.
All right.
So he came to see me, and I'm laying there, and he hands me a joint. And I said, what the fuck is that? I'm like, I don't want that, because I'm anti-drug. I'm the cop that, a drug dog handler.
Yeah.
I'm the guy. I'm anti that. I'm like, those are drugs. Get those the fuck out of here.
Right.
But I have a whole stack of pain medication right here.
Yeah, I was gonna say. But
exactly. But in my mind, this is from a doctor, Matthew. It's not a drug.
Do you have a prescription?
Yes, it's not a drug. That's a street drug. This is cannabis.
Right.
By the way, this is cannabis. So he hands it to me, and then I said to myself, well, fuck it. I might as well just go out as a drug addict too, because the pain pills. So I lit up that joint, and I smoked it, and it completely saved my life. It elevated my mood. It brought my mind temporarily away from what I was in. It helped me with my pain. It helped me with my motivation. And it completely just elevated my mood. And I said to myself, well, I don't need all this shit. I got this. This is better, So when people say that marijuana is a gateway drug, they're wrong. Marijuana was an exit drug for me. It helped me exit Big Pharma. And the first drug you usually try is what?
Marijuana? Alcohol?
No, alcohol. That's a gateway drug. Alcohol, tobacco, then usually marijuana. So I started researching, reading all these books like Marijuana Manifesto from Jesse Ventura, and the history of marijuana and how it was made illegal, and how it was based on, basically it had a racial component to it. The war on drugs by President Nixon. He wanted to lock up the hippies and the blacks because they didn't vote for him. So he wanted to prosecute them for marijuana. So I started researching that hemp was the original cash crop of this country for the first 150 years. Okay, they used to actually pay people to grow hemp and stuff. Our first Constitution was written on hemp. The first Bible was written on hemp. Hemp is as American as apple pie, and it's been criminalized and demonized. And from that point, I remember I went to sleep, and I had a vision, and I saw this.
Okay.
And from that point, the Stone Sailor was born. And I said, the Stone Sailor. I said, I'm going to be, the Stone Sailor. I'm going to push for cannabis, reform, because especially me with PTSD from being a veteran and things, how I don't need all this other bullshit medication that they want to keep me on that numbs me down, where I don't feel anything. I don't feel bad. I don't feel good. I don't feel. Okay. This allows me to feel. From there, I was going on about a year, still no movement in my legs, nothing, The cannabis motivated me to start working out. And the pain pills made me groggy. I couldn't do anything. The cannabis elevated my mood. Okay, I'll do physical therapy today. So they would come in and they would stretch my legs and massage them, and I would start working out my upper body. Like I had a little thing here, like a pull up by my bed, and I would start pulling up my upper body and get my upper body strong. And then I had to learn how to transfer, like go from the bed to a board to the wheelchair, from the wheelchair to the toilet, from the toilet to the shower. I had a bench in my shower. And then from the shower to the wheelchair to the car, getting in the car. I'm learning this all on my own, and I remember watching it like on YouTube, and I would start doing it and like learning tricks and doing this. And then when I would go to physical therapy, I remember going in and I said, guys, they were teaching me the same thing.
Right.
And I said, guys, I want you to teach me how to live my life without this chair. Don't teach me how to live my life with this chair, because I don't need you for that. I already watched YouTube and I know how to do all that. So if you can't teach me that, then I don't need you. So from that point, they agreed they'll do it my way. And I started researching, and I said, and I was once again using cannabis. I started learning about the strands, the sativa, the indica. One is elevates your mood, gives you energy, a sativa. An indica puts you to sleep. That's a daytime, that's a nighttime. The hybrids, the RSOs, the cannabinoids, the receptors. I researched everything, and it's all science, and it's all proven. There's no need for any more studies. They've been studying it for 75 years, and the government's just been lying. Right. You know, and finally the states are starting to take the lead. We got 36 states, I believe, 37 have some form of legal cannabis.
Right.
But what I remembered is George Mortorano, who was at the Medium, who got a life sentence for cannabis.
Yeah. And
he was in my mind a lot, and he's from Philly. And I used to talk to him all the time because he's from the same neighborhood I was from. And his father was a legendary guy there, you know, a mobster, you know. And you know, he has a nephew that owns a restaurant, and really successful man, Steve Mortorano, a very successful man with a great restaurant. And he has one in Fort Lauderdale, Cafe Mortorano's, but that's his nephew. And I remember thinking, Jesus Christ, they gave that guy a life sentence for weed. There was other guys in there for 10, 15 years for cultivation of cannabis and all this. And I said, these people don't belong in fucking prison. This drug everybody should be allowed to grow this, like my own medicine cabinet. I should be able to, just like you can get an aspirin, I should be able to go into my little yard and pull some buds off, grind them up, and, make a joint or right. Smoke it. And, well, going back, now all of a sudden, after, from that point, I started learning about aquatics, like putting paralyzed people in the water to help, because it's zero gravity and it helps, less stress on your body, zero gravity, less pain. And I started going to the pool in my neighborhood, and they would start seeing me, and I would wheel up there, and people would cheer me. It was like I was Rocky. And I would go to the pool, and I would just throw myself in like a fucking thing like this, and then I would swim my upper body, my lower body's just dangling, and I would get to the little end, and I would hold the end, and I would try to do squats, and I would try to make myself walk, and I would try to, I started filming all this stuff. And then out of nowhere, one morning, my big toe on my left foot started moving. And at first I thought it was because I spasm. I get like chicken legs. I have to take one medicine I do have to take is a anti-spasm medication, because my legs will spasm sometimes because I have nerve damage, permanent nerve damage. And I didn't know if that was me or if it was a spasm. And then I looked down and I realized it's me. I'm doing this. And it was just that little toe, that big toe on my left foot. When that started moving, it was like such a victory for me, because I finally had some fucking hope that I might be able to regain some of my body again, And I remember it was just so emotional. I was just crying when it happened, and it motivated me, because I was, 10, 11 months with nothing. And my mother would call me every day and go, did anything move yet? Did anything move, And everyone was, and I was just, and finally, and I got tired. I got sick and tired of people asking me that question every fucking day, because it was like a disappointment, you know what I mean? Because I had to say nothing. And next thing I know, a couple weeks later, Matt, my calf started moving, my butt cheeks, like everything started unlocking, but in different ways. My toe, and then this toe worked, and then my calf muscle started twitching, and then my gluteus maximus started twitching, and then things like that. Next thing you know, now I'm able to move my legs a little bit, and the doctors are amazed. They can't believe it. And
is this 10 months after you got out of the hospital?
A year after.
Oh, a year after.
Yeah, I was completely no movements for about 10 months.
Okay.
I was wheelchair bound. I was in a diaper. You can't control. You got a little bug on your chin. Oh, there he is. That son of a bug.
I thought I noticed something.
That's my OCD. I wanted to do that, but I didn't do it. So, but I was then the next thing I know, things are unlocking, and now I'm like, okay, I'm gonna stand. I think I could stand for the first time. And I tried it about 12 months to the day. I went and I got in a wheelchair and I stood for the first time. I got out of the chair and I stood and my legs went like this and I pissed my pants and everything because my body was just like that. And it was an amazing moment because they said I would never be able to do that. And out of nowhere, then my bladder control came back. And I remember talking to the urologist and he was like, I was like, he goes, do you feel your bladder? I said, yeah, I could feel it better. Like I feel it. And I remember going, I'm going to take the catheter out and see if I could do this on my own, like urinate.
Right.
And all of a sudden I pulled the catheter out on my own, right out. And, all of a sudden, next thing I know, I'm peeing on my own and your bladder and the way
I would think the muscle
it's a
was
muscle.
Yeah, was so relaxed by that point. It's not ready to. You have to retrain.
You have to work it. It's a muscle. The same thing with how they tell if you're paralyzed or not. It's pretty gross, but I'm going to tell you is your anal sphincter. They know you can't fake that. When a doctor puts his finger there, you clench.
Yeah.
Automatically, you can't stop it unless you're paralyzed. If you're paralyzed, you have no control of it. That's why you wear a diaper.
Right.
Right. Same kind of concept with your bladder.
Right.
It's a muscle. You got to build it to hold. And I just started, doing these exercises in my body, like contractions and things to like work them. I would contract, and work them. Huh. I guess women call them Kegel exercises.
I was going to say, women do it.
So exactly. So I started doing it. And then with that, all of a sudden, next thing you know, I could pee on my own and I don't need a diaper anymore. And, and I'm on a walker and I start training again. I start hitting it real hard because I'm like, I got momentum going. I'm not going to let this thing stop. You know what I mean? I'm going to walk again. And it was just an amazing thing. The urologist couldn't believe it. He's like, you got your bladder back. When you get urine function back, he's like, that's a major, I didn't think it was that big of a deal, but he's like, you don't understand that muscle. You know what I mean? He said, you're getting that back and it's a miracle,
Well, they have certain thresholds or certain things like I remember when my mom stopped being able to, when she had a stroke and was in a wheelchair, they were like, she's going to go downhill fast. Like as soon as you start losing mobility, you start going down.
Absolutely.
Like, and there's certain things that doctors are like, okay, this just happened.
Yeah, bad sign.
Yeah.
So all those bad signs were now coming back.
But you're reversing.
I reversed
going
it. It reversed, and
the reverse.
I don't know why. I when I was in rehab, there was a 24-year-old kid that was on his way home from a concert, got in a car wreck, neck down, quadriplegic. And I remember all the people that were like, we had this young kid, he was shot in the spine over a girl. He was paralyzed from the waist down. These are all in the rehab centers with me. And I remember going back to the rehab centers, and I'm now on a walker when I was with those guys in a wheelchair.
Yeah.
Now I'm on a walker.
Right.
So I started feeling guilty because I'm like, things are coming back for me, but they're not coming back for these guys. And they're seeing me and the progress, and they're putting me in the pool. And
survivor guilt.
Yeah, just like from when I got back from Iraq, and I had a real good buddy of mine get blown up and killed. So you have a survivor guilt.
Yeah.
And I didn't understand why I got this back, like why me and not them, I'm not no more deserving than they are.
Right.
And I just said to myself, I have to just keep moving forward, and I got to get back on my feet because I got to be an example to them, because if I could do it, then they could do it. So every step, every little inch I would try to gain, maybe I'd be on the walker and then I would try to get a cane and do one step and then I'd fall. Hurt, busted my ankle up real bad, had to get laid up again, came back again. Then I tried to go 2 steps and then 3 steps and then, with the cane, and I'm, like this. And I just said to myself, I gotta show them that if I could do it, they could do it, and I have to, show them that you could beat this, you could beat this. There's a lot of medical technology and things, but in the States, we're so restricted because of these stem cells and the fact that they won't allow other countries where they could do stem cell implants in your spine and things like that. I was even looking at going to South America. They have a big stem cell thing in Medellin, I think, Colombia, where they'll put stem cells in your injuries. A lot of people are going down there because there they don't have the restrictive laws because of the stem cells with the aborted babies and all this other stuff, the placenta. It's just all, to me, it's all bullshit. If you can help living people, help them.
Right.
You know what I mean? And so I just, it came back to me, and I just said to myself, there's a reason why I got brought back. There's a reason I'm here. That obviously wasn't, because I remember just completely, having and I'm not like some super religious guy or anything like that. I'm very spiritual, and I know enough to know that I don't know what God looks like or what he wants and things like that. I know enough to know I don't know that. But I do know enough to know that there is a higher power out there. Whether he looks like Jesus or he looks like whoever else, we don't know. It could be just an entity, a being, who knows? But I know there's a higher power out there, because the way your body works and how everything complements each other, you can't deny that. You'd have to be a fool not to think that somebody of greater intelligence didn't create that, because how your cells work and how I was learning how my nerves and my signals, if they meet a roadblock, your body will create an alternate route to get through. Your body does that. The doctors don't do it. Your body does it. So that design right there has got to come from someone that's intelligent, super intelligent, higher intelligence. So, and even the best doctors don't even understand our brain and our spine. So I just know that when you get up in the morning, before when you stand up to go to the toilet to pee, it takes 100 miracles to happen.
Yeah.
From your brain to your spine. It takes 100 miracles to happen. And I'll never take those miracles for granted again. Ever. So I know that. So, and I just, from that point, I started cutting videos and I started my own channel, and I found that people just really like hearing prison stories.
Well,
I don't know I've done a lot in my life, and of course they like, but the prison stories, they just love. They just, every time, with all the things I've done in my life, like people, I would get around, and it would be crazy because I would get around like doctors, college professors, somebody who works in the business world, who works in, corporate America, and I'll sit around at a table and we're eating, and everything is just directed at, tell me what it was like to work in the prison. I'm sure you get,
God, are you kidding me?
It's crazy.
I've said that exact scenario, what you just said.
Yeah.
I'm like, this guy's a doctor.
Yeah.
This guy is a CPA. This guy is even a police officer.
Yeah.
And it's like, you guys are asking me what about being in prison.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
It's crazy.
Yeah,
it's crazy.
It is.
So
I have a quick question.
Shoot.
So how long once you started before you were actually walking on your own? Because you walked in here.
Yeah.
Like I did something.
No,
you have a cane.
Yeah, I use a cane because my legs shake sometimes. I get spasms.
Oh, I didn't even notice. See, I didn't notice that when you walked in.
Yeah,
I saw you holding the cane, but I didn't see you using it really.
Yeah, I spasm sometimes, and I don't. Sometimes like it's weird because like my legs, sometimes there's a delay. So if they get too tired, sometimes I'll just fold like. So I use the cane. If I feel like my legs are buckling, I can hold on to it. You know what I mean? So,
but are you going to the gym? Are you doing like leg extensions?
Yeah, I'm doing everything. I can't run. I can't do cardio. I do it on a bike.
Yeah.
I pedal and I lift weights and I teach jujitsu.
Okay.
I teach kids jujitsu, young adults, defense and stuff. And I used to roll all the time, like, compete and do things like that. I can't do that kind of stuff anymore.
Right.
But I still teach self-defense. I still go to class. I still do,
So how long from the point when you actually said, okay, I'm in the pool, something's happening here, I can feel it, to where you were actually walking on your own?
I would say 2.5 years.
Okay.
Yeah, a little over 2 years,
Well, this thing happened.
19.
Yeah. Okay, so I was gonna say, because you walked right in here.
Yeah, you're looking at it. This is my, I would say 6 months ago I was on a walker.
And you drove here?
I drove here.
Cool.
Yeah.
And there's no problems with you driving. You don't feel you feel.
No. I'm fine. I had to take a driving test. You don't know, but when you get disabled, they suspend your license. You know
okay.
that?
No.
They hold it because you have to. I had to get a handicap parking sticker.
Right.
So when you go to do that, what they do is they tell the DMV this guy is handicapped. So now they bring you in and they make you do another driving test.
Okay.
Okay. So I had to come back in and do a driving test, and I passed the driving test in a wheelchair. I wheeled in when I took it. It's like I wheeled in, I opened it, I got in the thing, and I did it. I did the driving test, and I passed. Yeah. I cheated a little.
Why? What do you mean?
I cheated a little
How's that?
because it was during COVID, and they don't come in the car with you. They put a cell phone in there.
Oh my God.
So they only watch you from the waist up. They don't know what it is, but I'm not divulging any. I'm not going to admit to anything else.
So,
But I passed.
how long have you had that? So you started a YouTube channel.
Yeah.
How long have you had the YouTube channel?
About a year. I the first show I went on was I was watching a lot of TV because it was COVID. I was paralyzed, so I started watching a lot of YouTube and a lot of stuff, and I came across John and Jean, their show, and I was watching it, and it seemed like he had a good vibe. John, he was pushing a lot of stuff, helping kids out and things like that, and I just commented. I said it was a good show, whatever, and he saw my name like the Stone Sailor, I guess, and looked at my Instagram.
Right. Who?
John Alite.
Oh, okay. Okay.
Yeah, John Alite. He was a a mob guy. He was he was.
Yeah, he was on.
I know. He was on your show. Yeah, and then
But you said John and Gene. I didn't know there was a Gene. I didn't know.
It was John and Gene. They originally had a show. Gene Borello and John Alite started a.
That was before he and Mike.
He and Mike, before he and Mike, he and Mike, and they had a show, and I was just watching it one day, and they had a military veteran on, and they were talking to him, and next thing I know, I get in contact with John. I sent him a great show, and then I talked to him. He's he happens to live very close, not near me, but near a relative of mine, and he said, "You want to come on the show?" And I'm like, "I don't know if I want to do that," because I told him I was retired. I got medically retired from the job and all that too.
Right.
So I said, "I don't know. Let me think about it and whatever." And then I said, "You know what? If my story can help somebody," because I never shared like that my dad was in prison and things like that. Because when sometimes I from my experiences as a kid, other kids ridiculed me for that. My dad was in the newspaper because he killed somebody. All the stuff, and people knew, and it was like kids weren't allowed to play with me, weren't allowed to come to my house. I wasn't allowed to go to their house. I mean, it was just a whole big thing, and I never really shared a lot of that. So that was my first time telling my whole story, about how I grew up and things like that.
Right.
But I always took that with me. It made me a better corrections officer. That's for damn sure.
Well, I mean, going on people's channels also helps you with your channel. It'll help grow your subscribers. It helps get your story out there.
Yeah.
People tend to, they get invested in you, and then they want to help support you. And they're interested in you interact with other people. So it's a good way to.
More importantly, though, when I did his show, and it was the first time I ever talked about these things in my life, when we shut down and I closed the laptop, I had never walked out of a psychiatrist's office or a psychologist's office and felt as good as I did that day.
Cathartic.
I shut that.
Absolutely.
It was a purge.
Absolutely.
A complete purge. And I felt better than any psychiatrist. And I've been to a lot of them at the VA. And I never felt as good as I did. Like, I let a big load off because I just shared it. It's out there in the open. And now everyone knows.
Yeah. Yeah, it's so much better to just talk about stuff than to bottle it up.
Yeah,
Okay. So, anything else? What can you think of?
Well,
you've been great, bro, because you could tell your whole story. I don't have to say anything. I don't have to do anything. I just, So,
I have my YouTube channel, The Stone Sailor.
Yeah.
And
you have a cannabis line.
I have a can. Yep, I have. Well, this is my swag line right here. This is all my shirts, and I have hoodies and things like that.
Right.
Shirts, hoodies, cups, mugs. And matter of fact, it's Mother's Day, and you need to get your mother a Stone Sailor mug.
My mom's dead.
I apologize.
That's fine.
Okay.
No,
how about your father?
He's gone too.
I'm an old man.
How about
your girlfriend?
She's a recovering drug addict.
Well, coffee cup. She drinks coffee. It's a coffee cup.
Talking about
No, I'm not giving her.
Okay.
Actually, wait a second. Cannabis is proven to help. They're using that to wean people off opioids.
I can get a coffee cup. She loves coffee.
Okay, but you need to look. She might want to look into that. Cannabis has been proven to help people wean off of opioids. That's another great thing about cannabis. So
yeah.
It really is. I mean, you should check into it. But get her a coffee mug. Don't be a cheapskate.
I can't get her a coffee mug now. She just walked in.
She's gonna. When she sees the coffee mugs on my site, there she is. You're gonna get a coffee mug from him. Okay, he's gonna buy it off my site.
I thought he was trying to get me to get you.
You can get her. You can get her cannabis too.
Like I can't get her.
No,
cannabis.
yes, you can. Actually, well, I told you, cannabis is. They're using cannabis to wean people off opioids, and it's successful, very successful. Look into it if that's the thing. Just it's out there. The information's out there, and it's really a miracle. There's people that are weaning off opioids, alcohol, all kinds of stuff through cannabis.
Well, I'll put we'll put the link to your YouTube channel and and see if we can get some subscribers.
But there's something else I'm doing too, Matthew.
What's that?
I am now in the world of professional wrestling. I'm a manager.
Are you really?
Yes.
With who?
With Pro Wrestling 2.0 right now.
What's his name? Do you know Johnny Walker?
I know the drink Johnny Walker
No,
very well.
No, listen, we had a guy on here who.
Him. Yes, I saw him. I liked him. I love that. Yeah.
You know what bothers me? I think that was one of the best interviews I ever did. Didn't do well because people want to hear about prison stories.
Yeah.
And
I liked him. Put me in touch with him.
Yeah, I was gonna say. We've been to his.
Put me in touch with him.
He's great.
Yeah, I love when he was on the show. Yeah, I loved it. Yeah,
you gotta go though. I mean, it's it is what it is. It's hilarious though. He's like they got he focuses more on the story.
Yeah, the storyline.
Characters.
Yeah, the backstory. Yeah, that's what I like. The original wrestling, the original stuff that we grew up watching in the '80s, not this stuff here.
Yeah, we go into the whole thing. It's great.
Yeah, and they saw some videos because I'm a character and I cut videos and promos and stuff. And one of the guys is like, "You'd be a natural to come do this. Let me train you."
Yeah, well, you're a big guy too.
So I went down. Yeah, but I'm not going out there wrestling and I'm a manager. I'm the guy that cheats and insults the crowd and gets you to hate me. And anytime the referee's not looking, I beat up your guy and I hit him with a cane or I strangle him or hit him and stuff like that.
Yeah, you should talk to him.
I'm a bad guy.
I'll put you in touch with Heather. Heather's his.
Definitely.
Heather's his. What is she? Is she his manager? Not manager. She's his. Does the promotions and stuff.
Whatever, the booker or whatever they call it. Booker, yeah.
Yeah, definitely.
Make sure he gets you a cup. Don't let him get off like that. Easy. Go ahead. And a shirt, too. You need to get a shirt like this, see? Okay. You need to get one, too. Don't be a cheapskate, Matt.
All right, so...
But that's what I'm doing now. They're training me to do that, and I'm doing that and doing a bunch of things. I said to myself, I didn't learn to walk again, to walk on eggshells around anybody else ever again. And I got a bucket list. I've been all over the world, but there's some things I still want to do. And I've always been a huge fan of pro wrestling. I thought I would eventually maybe be a wrestler one day when I was a kid, but it's a different, things happen. But this is a cool way, and they saw a talent in me for it, so they're training me.
Yeah, they're. I was gonna say it's like they were the Marvel movies before they were Marvel movies. You know what I'm saying?
Yes, they were the good and evil, the characters, good versus evil. Yeah, exactly. The storyline.
Yeah, definitely. You'd love Johnny Walker.
Yeah, I would love to meet him. Yeah, I did see him. I didn't watch the whole show, but I saw a little bit of it.
So funny.
Yeah, I saw a little bit of it.
He's such a nut, and he's lived a life like
it's
ridiculous.
Yeah, please put me in contact with him. I would definitely like to meet that guy. Yeah, definitely.
I thought it was a great.
What's his name? Johnny Walker?
Yeah. What? That's not. That's his stage.
Oh, that's his name.
What? Jeff Crean, I think. Oh yeah, Jeff Crean. Yeah.
All right, Jeff. I'm gonna get in contact with you. I want you to train me. You understand?
I can't think of his name. Johnny Walker. That's just him.
That's his. That's his wrestling name. It's his wrestling. I'm the Stone Sailor. But I'm the manager.
I'll definitely get you in touch with him. And,
definitely.
So yeah, definitely. So what's the name of the channel? The YouTube channel?
The Stone Sailor.
Stone Sailor.
Yeah.
Okay.
I'm on Instagram. Rob Farlow, the Stone Sailor. YouTube, the Stone Sailor. Mob Swag is my merchandise page. I'm up. She's laughing. Mob Swag. They got a bunch of guys, that came up with this company, and you know, this is I trademarked this. It's mine, and they do all the shipping and all the logistics of it. You know, and we split the money. So
yeah, I gotta call him back. Do the same.
I'm not talented like you. I can't paint paintings like this and all that stuff. I don't have talents like that.
The problem with like designing, you have to really know how to design a logo. Everybody thinks it's so easy.
You think you could paint that?
Yeah, of course. Paint anything.
Well, my birthday's in November, Matt. Hint.
Thanks for being here.
Definitely. Thank you for having me.
All right, so if you like the video, do me a favor and hit the subscribe button. Hit the bell so you get notifications of other videos like this. Leave me a comment in the comment section. I try and respond to all the comments, although I don't get to all of them. And share the video with as many friends and family as you can possibly think of. And I appreciate it. And see ya.